The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now, your hosts, Christy Scales, Aisha Morrison, Nicole Hutchison, and Jess Navarez.
Welcome to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Christy Scales, Nicole Hutchinson, Aisha Morrison, Jess Navarez. I almost called you Jess Navarez.
What's your name again?
I don't know.
I
don't know my name. I almost called you my name, and that's not how it works. Welcome to Girls Talk, Boys Talk. We're live here at the Star in Frisco from the SWBC Podcast Studios. Ladies, we're officially turning the page. We don't have to talk about last week anymore. We can celebrate now because
She's happy about that one.
She doesn't want to watch that game for a fifth time.
I don't want to be. I'm tired of having to be so mean too. So,
so what we're going to do today is we're going to give a little overview of some notes we have as we turn the page to Week 6 against the Chargers. We're going to talk some notes, how the Cowboys can bounce back from that loss last week, and kind of the strengths, the weaknesses, all the things. Some fun facts, some fun stories. Kellen Moore's revenge game, if you will. We'll get into that a little bit as well. So let's start with some of the more, I don't want to call it breaking news. It's not really breaking news, just the more relevant news for the day. The Cowboys worked out a few linebackers, it seems like, to potentially sign to the team. Nothing's official yet, and we're going to monitor to see if it does become official throughout the show. But we talked about this yesterday, Christy, how important it is to have depth in that linebacker room, not just for the defense overall without Leighton Vander Esch, but it also leaks into special teams with C.J. Goodwin being out. And so I think that's something we talked about yesterday, but the importance of it is absolutely there for both units.
That's right. And so Malik Jefferson, who had been elevated the past 2 weeks from practice squad to be on the game day roster, and then, of course, was pressed into service, along with Marquise Bell getting more reps on Sunday night after Leighton Vander Esch went out of the game. And so, even though Leighton Vander Esch he did some special teams last year, but he's not one of your core special teams guys. But signing someone to the practice squad and elevating them, or signing them to the 53-man roster, that's going to be a core thing, because in addition to Leighton Vander Esch, you've also lost C.J. Goodwin, who is one of your core special teams guys. So there is a hole there as well.
I personally would love to see Damone really step in and get some more snaps. I know he has really not taken a lot of snaps, maybe the last couple of weeks maybe. His best game was against the Patriots, but I actually got to cover him at LSU, so I saw how explosive he was, how he attacked the line of scrimmage, and just how aggressive and physical he was. So I really want to see that be on a consistent basis for him, and maybe get some more reps, in place of Leighton.
that's a good point. As far as them going out and looking at linebacker, I'm glad that they are.
Yeah.
Just because, obviously, your depth has been tested so early on in the season, especially with the DeMarion Overshown loss, and then losing Devin Harper to the Bengals. I think that was unexpected.
There really was.
I
They thought they were going to be able to re-sign him.
And especially since we talked about it, how late in the week it was, that typically a team is not going to try to be doing that because they're trying to put together their game plan. So shout out to Cincinnati scout team. But also, too, you're also seeing offenses attack your nickel. They're attacking your safeties, and part of that is because of the linebacker depth and stuff that's going on. So to get another true linebacker in here, I think is going to be beneficial for that front seven, and also to kind of even out that rotation of big nickel safety guys and things like that moving forward, so teams aren't taking advantage of you there as often.
And the Chargers, with the run game, linebackers being so important to your run defense, the Chargers are getting Austin Eckler back this week. He had missed time, and so he told media there in Los Angeles yesterday that he's 99% sure that he'll be back for Monday night's game. So, stopping him is a priority. Of course, he's a dynamic guy who's just as effective effective catching the ball out of the backfield as he is running the ball, but a huge emphasis and a big focus will be Eckler for the Cowboys defense on Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at just some of how he runs the ball. He's a tough-nosed guy, a little crazy, which this is okay. That's okay.
You need that in a running
he
back.
also he just has the ability to make the big play. He does. Similar to kind of how wrong guy, not knocking CD, but Tony Pollard has that ability to get to the second level and make you pay. Austin Eckler has this as well, and then you talked about his receiving capability, which opens up his game too. So yeah, getting him back is going to be a good boost for that run game because they've been struggling since he's been out on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and I think it's just an interesting point too that you all bring up because you're looking at this Chargers team, and I think how do I say this? I think had the Cowboys won on Sunday against the 49ers, you would have looked at this Chargers team and be like, oh, easy. They could easily defeat this team. The thing is, if they beat the 49ers, I'm saying if they beat the 49ers, you would kind of have a different mindset.
You'd have a better feeling about it,
You'd have a
for
different
sure.
mindset.
Yeah.
As far as the Chargers, what I've been looking at is it's such an interesting team right now because it almost feels like the Cowboys offense and the Chargers offense switched positions from this year to last year. And again, the common factor in that, yes, is Kellen Moore, but also just the positions that both offenses are in as far as, look, the Chargers, they're getting more established right now. They really haven't had their established core unit on their offense yet, but they're also coming off of a bye week. Wanted to point that out. They've had rest, they've had time to rejuvenate, and they've had time to work players back in that maybe haven't had the opportunity to see the field yet or haven't seen the field a lot. So, look, they're going to be a tough challenge without Leighton Vander Esch, especially that run defense. We kind of skimmed over it yesterday, but if you remember last year, remember when the run defense became a topic of conversation. So when Jonathan Hankins was out, then shortly after, Leighton Vander Esch was out with that neck stinger. So Jonathan Hankins, still good, still making plays like we saw. However, makes me a little nervous, guys.
Yeah.
Makes me a little nervous.
Go ahead, babe.
Yeah, you also want linebackers who are good in coverage as well, because you're right about Eckler being such a threat. He actually led the team in receptions and targets last year. And they are without Mike Williams, who's their big, when I say big play, big in stature as well, their wide receiver. He's out with a torn ACL. And so, sure, they still have Keenan Allen. They have a 6'8" tight end, Donald Parham Jr., who they think will be back from injury and available. Talk about a big target in the red zone. But when you remove Mike Williams from the equation, he's a guy that actually caught a touchdown pass against the Cowboys the last time Dallas played out there at the Chargers. That was just 2 years ago, Cowboys win. But that is a huge loss for the Chargers, and so getting Eckler back in time for that is important. And then we'll also get to see a lot of folks around here who follow college football with TCU. Quentin, that's right. And two players, actually, that they drafted, wide receivers from TCU that are getting extra opportunities now with Williams out.
Yeah. This Chargers team has a lot of threats, and I have some cool little nuggets just for you guys' reference. Like, Justin Herbert is top 5 in the NFL in completion percentage, passing touchdown interception ratio, and passer rating in 2023. And it goes deeper. The Chargers have had the fewest drop passes in the NFL. The Cowboys have dropped 9 passes, tied for 7th most in the NFL. So overall, I think this Chargers offense brings such a big challenge for the Cowboys defense, especially based off the performance that they put on last week. It's like, now, what do you do when you have, I guess they weren't expecting to have this challenge, but now it's kind of like, okay, well, what do you do when you're coming off of a performance like that?
Yeah, and they know what they're in for, because not this summer, but the previous summer, Cowboys, before playing the Chargers in the preseason game, had practices there in Costa Mesa, which is just south of LAX, and it's very close to SoFi Stadium, actually, but got to see Justin Herbert and go against those guys in practice a couple times, and those are really good opportunities for the starters, because in preseason action, you're not going to play your starters in the preseason games, but when you have those joint practices leading into the preseason games, that's where the real value is, where you have the ones versus the ones, and that was, and for me, that was my highlight last summer of all of Cowboys training camp. you guys know I love to watch quarterbacks play. I love Aaron Rodgers, Brock Purdy.
We know.
Gosh, he was so fantastic Sunday night from a football fan's perspective, not from a Cowboy sideline perspective. Man, he was great.
Wild with that one.
But Justin Herbert is one of those guys,
Yeah.
one of the chosen ones, and man, the thing is, though, he suffered that broken left middle finger in the Week 4 game, and so having that bye week, you mentioned that they had it early, Jess, that was really helpful for Justin Herbert as well to have an extra week because of that injured finger on his non-throwing hand.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by the stats that you rolled out, Nicole, just because they toss the ball around. That's what a Kellen Moore offense does.
Yep.
So not surprised by that at all. You mentioned how would you defend this? I think this is a good test for the secondary. Most of their receivers are bigger in size. I think the Cowboys secondary typically struggles with those shifty small guys more, and that's pretty much every secondary, quite honestly. Look at the Dolphins and how they play ball, but your defensive line has to be good. That was something that we saw this past game, is that there wasn't a whole bunch of pressure consistently, and that's partially because Brock Purdy's getting the ball out so quickly. No. This team has long developing plays. It's a Kellen Moore offense, so there will be opportunities for this secondary, this front seven to get after this Chargers offensive line and take advantage to make opportunities for this secondary. But as far as the matchup with the receivers to the corners, I think that they fare pretty well when it comes to the size and how those guys like to play.
Yeah, and even though Herbert, we think of him as kind of a prototypical drop-back passer and looking for some of those long shots and those long developing plays, as Aisha mentions, this is still a guy who can move. Yeah. He's big and tall, but he's shiftier than he looks. He had 2 rushing touchdowns in their Week 4 win, and so he's one of those guys where when you're talking about the pass rush, and hopefully this week the Cowboys defense is able to set up some 3rd and longs, which was a problem last week.
Absolutely.
We've been talking about that. Yep. But you got to keep him in the well, because Herbert can hurt you with his legs if you let him out of that well and let him escape the pocket.
Sure, and let's compare some stats here, because Aisha, you made a comment there that I'm glad you did, that Kellen Moore's offensive schemes love big plays, and I think the explosive plays is what you're seeing there with the Chargers now. Let's go over rushing so far, and keep in mind they've only played 4 games because they had the bye week this last week. So in 4 games, the Chargers have 479 rushing yards, 1,155 receiving yards. And here's the difference there. In 5 games, the Dallas Cowboys have 622 rushing yards, and then they have 1,089 receiving yards. So what you're missing on this Cowboys offense, and I just find it so ironic that the Kellen Moore conversation comes up this week after the 49ers game and after what you saw without the lack of explosive plays on the Cowboys offense, is you're seeing a vast difference now, 5 weeks in, getting established, of a Mike McCarthy run offense compared to a Kellen Moore run offense. And here's the thing. I was hearing a discussion earlier this morning, and I'm going to pose the same question to you ladies because I thought it was an interesting discussion, was who has the bigger advantage in this matchup? Is it Dan Quinn or is it Kellen Moore, and why? And it seems like an easy question, but I pose it to you ladies because here's the thing. If you think about it this way, Kellen Moore has a new quarterback, obviously this year, a new team, new weapons. It's not really the same Chargers that you saw last year, right? Dan Quinn has, for the most part, retained his guys. Same defense, same scheme for the most part, same versatility. It's kind of the same thing that Kellen was facing. And however, you go now when you see what Dan has to work with, it's kind of a new team, giving, in my opinion, Kellen a little bit of a heads up to Dan scheming against him right now. But that's also because it's so early in the season. They came off a bye week, so that's even less film that they have. There's a few things working against. So I'm going to pose a question to you guys. Who has the upper hand in this?
What?
I'd say it's well, it's still the players who are going to decide it, and both of those guys will tell you that. But I do love your question, Jess, and I would say that it's in terms of your question, it's Kellen, because Kellen knows the Cowboys players, the personnel on defense, because he saw him in practice every day. He was in on meetings and things like that. So whereas Dan Quinn, he may know what Kellen Moore wants to do, but he doesn't have the knowledge of the Chargers' offensive personnel that Kellen does of the Cowboys' defensive personnel that he, was with so many days of the year and that he practiced against all the time.
Now, the last time, I looked this up earlier, the last time Kellen Moore faced Dan Quinn, a Dan Quinn defense, when he was the head coach of the Falcons, was in 2020, and he put up 40 points on that team. And the only other team to do that was Tampa Bay when they won the Super Bowl that year. So
that's a good point.
I think Kellen Moore does have the advantage because he had pretty much the same pieces in that team, of course, outside of like Zeke and a couple other guys, but pretty much the same offensive pieces that year. So I don't know, the way that he calls plays, it's like you just never know what Kellen Moore's cooking up. So I don't know.
Yeah, I would. I don't know. Well, another.
Were you gonna play devil's advocate?
Yeah, I mean, another important part about it is that, like, I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Simi Fehoko is on this.
Yeah.
He's on that team as well. They brought him in after the Mike Williams injury. I'm not sure how much time he's getting, but you also have another receiver that was around for this whole new install, which, again, it's not a huge deal, but every team does it. You get information from guys. But as far as the Dan Quinn thing, I think Dan Quinn has the somewhat of the advantage of just kind of how this but also too it's based off of me watching film on the Chargers and looking at how they play ball. Sure. And when you pass the ball as much as they do, and again, that's why Eckler returning is such a big deal. Maybe that will throw some wrinkles in, but when you pass the ball and the way their passing concepts are, it really plays into the Cowboys' favor. The way they like to rush the passer, get them behind the sticks. Like, they're not afraid to throw on first down. They're not. Like, they're going to. And with that is, if you're going up against a defense that can get those stops early on in the sticks, it plays into the Cowboys' hand. And then again, I talked about the size of the receivers, how they match up against the Cowboys' secondary. They don't do a whole bunch of stuff to, like, create separation, I guess. It's like, hey,
they don't have to.
They're like, are you better than our guy? And that's just kind of how they fare. So I'm going to play devil's advocate and say that the Cowboys are, to me, defensively more in a better place to defend this type of offense as opposed to some of the ones we've seen so far.
I love that. Well, let's take our first break. When we come back, let's continue this offensive conversation. We'll get into some defense and special teams. We have a lot to talk about and how that could play a role for this game, or how it can't. So stick with us. We'll be right back. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Welcome back to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We're getting into more Chargers-Cowboys conversation, but first, the most action-packed... Wait, that is for Thursday. Hold on, y'all. Okay, here we go. Check out the latest and greatest addition to tours at AT&T Stadium and at the Star in Frisco. Meet Jerry Jones, an interactive experience. Get a peek behind the curtain and into the fascinating life of Jerry Jones with a focus on innovative fan experience in partnership with AT&T. This interactive technology gives tour-goers the opportunity to ask Mr. Jones a variety of questions. For more information and to book your tour, head to dallascowboys.com/tours. All right, my days are officially mixed up. So with that, ladies, let's continue the conversation we were just in about offense. Let's stick there, and then we'll work our way back to defense. Aisha, I'm assuming you were buried deep in film all night and all morning. What are some of the things that the Cowboys offense, let's stick on this offensive conversation, that the Cowboys offense have to do to win this game? It's not should they. What do they have to do to win this game?
I'll say what they can do is
They need to do.
attack the middle of the field, attack the seams. The Chargers run their base is too high safety, and what that means is that you just have two safeties deep. So they're really not trying to give up anything over the top. They're not trying to give up the deep pass, but because of that, that leaves the middle of the field open, and so that allows you to have your tight ends or whoever attack the seams, attack the middle of the field. They'll allow the underneath stuff, but they also this defense also does tighten up well once they get to the red zone. They're one of the best teams again. I think they're top 5 in the red zone as far as defense goes. But they allow yardage. You can pass on them. 31st in yards allowed. So the bottom half of the league, 24th in points allowed, and then they also are 18th in rush per attempt. So if the Cowboys offense wants to get back on track and really start reforming their identity, I think this is a good team to do that against. Christy, you mentioned that I was trying to creep on Twitter and see if Derwin James was ready to go. It looks like he
missed week
trending.
4.
Yeah.
He missed week 4, but they may have him back by Monday.
Yeah.
Trending.
An all-pro safety guy.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
It would be important for them to have back.
He's a big part of what they do, but he also is a part of what they do in tackling as well. He's one of their highest-rated tacklers against the run on this team. So depending on whether he's back or not, it's going to be important. Honestly, contain Khalil Mack. He's been semi-quiet this year.
Except for one game.
No, he has.
Yeah.
He has, to his standards, I'm sure he is not. But that's partially because people can pay a lot more attention to him because Joey Bosa is out. So be able to contain him. And to me, the Cowboys should have opportunities in the passing game, but also in the run game to get going and get active.
I mean, I was going to say the same thing. I really saw Joey Bosa wasn't playing, so winning at the line of scrimmage is really important for them. I know the front 5 didn't have the best game last week. Terrence Steele, of course, having a hard time, taking on Nick Bosa. So, it's going to come down to those guys and really proving that that group is back. It's only week 2. With them being back. So I think that's going to be important for them just winning at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, it'd be good to not have to face Bosa's back-to-back. We've had enough with Nick,
Yeah,
so let's not have the brother Joey
It's always
on
those
that.
4-letter
But
names,
the Khalil Mack, I know you
Yeah.
had some notes about Khalil, and so those 6 sacks that he had in the game is tied for second most in NFL history, and only 5 guys have ever had.
Insane.
He's one of 5 guys in NFL history to have 6 sacks in a game. And those of us Cowboys, we remember our trip to Atlanta in 2017. Another one of those players was Adrian Claiborne from the Atlanta Falcons. And in Cowboys lore, we refer to that as the Chaz Green game. So we know what that looks like. So I feel for that game where against Las Vegas where they yielded the 6 sacks to Mack. But you're right. He has been drawing more attention when you don't have Joey Bosa on the other side.
Absolutely. I think for this Cowboys offense to be successful this week, they can't defeat themselves. It starts with not defeating yourselves. It starts with establishing who you are first, how you want to attack this game plan, and going from there. In this case, Nicole, you talked about this yesterday. Establish the run first. Get Tony Pollard going. Personally, Aisha, we were talking about this after the podcast yesterday. I want to see a little more Rico Dowdle in there as well. I think the 1-2 punch worked so well for this Cowboys offense last year. And given it's a different scheme, it's a different type of offense, but it worked well for a few reasons. One of which was it protected the longevity of both of the guys throughout the rest of the long season. And 2, when you have a guy like Rico who's going to fight, I mean, that guy will fight for yardage. He's going to push. He's going to shove. The thing is, Rico's so physical, you forget how small he is, actually. You really forget his size. And so I want to see more 1-2 punch from Rico Dowdle, Tony Pollard. Get that run established. Open up your passing game. But most importantly, where are the tight ends? Get the tight ends involved,
That's
please.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, this is perfect. This is
Middle of the field. This
is a perfect
That's what Aisha's been saying.
That's a perfect time. It is. It's a perfect time to establish that the seam threats in this
Yes.
in this offense. It is necessary. It has to happen for this offense to expand and to grow. But also, too, I'm glad that you mentioned just the running backs in general. Yeah, this last game, I can't say that you abandoned the run, but I will say that it wasn't emphasized. It wasn't something you stuck to in the beginning of that game because you were still in that game.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the second half that you weren't in that game. You were still in that game, and running the ball isn't always just running down the A and B gap. It's getting to the edges. It's the screen game. It's things of that nature. And to me, with the running backs that you have, I'm not so much like the 1-2 punch. I'm more so, what does the matchup call for? Who is the more equipped running back for this particular matchup? Yeah. Is it, if it's not Tony, okay, then give Rico more burn. Or if it's a team that is hard mouth and like physical, then you want your really physical guys down there and punishing, like returning that punishment. So to me, I'm looking at how the usage of the running backs improves or changes or however it is, because I don't know. I mean, a lot of people were like, Tony leads the NFL in touches. I don't like that.
No, you don't want him to.
I don't
you
like
want it to be shared.
And also too, when he's running the way that he's being used and some of the things they're doing, running in between the tackles, that's not his strong suit. Not saying he can't do it, but his explosiveness comes at the second level and doing things of that nature. So to me, getting him in position to do those things is more feasible as opposed to doing those things. So for me, it's like, how do they use the running backs in this game, and also sticking to that plan, because you can't make yourself one-dimensional.
You can't, and if the defense has to respect the run game, that's when you pop them with the play-action pass, and they weren't able to do that last week. And so, and especially if you're trying to get over the middle of the field, some of these routes that Aisha's talking about, you have to draw those linebackers in with the play-action, and that's when you go over the head. You weren't able to do that last week. That's why you saw Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, just having huge days.
And that's something that, and I'm gonna this is my last thing. And then when you talk about play action, that's what that works against the Chargers. But also too, if you're gonna do play action, baby, don't be doing it out of shotgun. The point of it to me for play action is to make people believe you're running the ball.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when you do it out of shotgun, they're less intrigued. They're like, all right, homie, if that's what you're going to do. So to me, doing more play action under center and doing a few more things under center when your quarterback, teams also, too, watching the Chargers, were successful doing that because their linebackers are taking the bait. Their safeties are taking the bait. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of their shifty eyes.
Yeah, and I just, to your point of being under center, that was one of the things coming out of training camp that we finally got the staff to admit. I don't know that this was in one of the press conferences or in one of the walk-offs, but one of the things that I was told by more than one coach on the staff is we would see more of Dak under center this year. We really hadn't seen it yet.
We ain't seen it yet, and it's weird because he plays well from there.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about how we haven't seen a full Mike McCarthy offense, but it's just so interesting. I started digging a little deeper into his play calling this morning and last night. I was like, let me just see what was going on here in Green Bay, because to be honest, I didn't really pay attention to it because I didn't have to. I didn't think
honestly.
I didn't need to. I heard Aaron Rodgers. I was like, nope, I don't
Bye.
need to. I don't need to
You
know.
would look so good in a cheese head, though. See?
Look, here's the thing. I would never fit in because I don't like cheese curds. So.
Oh my gosh! How can you not like cheese? That's the greatest. Oh my gosh! The Minnesota and the Wisconsin State Fair, the greatest.
Oh no.
Not better than Texas State Fair, but
What
the
you
cheese
see, Mama?
curds.
What you see?
What did I see?
Yeah.
Exactly what we're seeing now.
Tater tots.
It's and look, I'm not shading Mike McCarthy for that. I'm not. I got you, Christy.
There you go. Thank you.
I'm not shade. That's no shade. How do you put this in?
Just
Not
there
that
you
you
go.
have quarters
You
laying
got it.
there because you.
Oh,
just,
that's really hard to. Okay.
Oh my god.
Anyways.
Sorry.
Here's the thing. It's no shade to Mike McCarthy. He has his set style, as every play caller around the league does, right? But what you're noticing from the Cowboys, and I started comparing to last year and this year, I was in my multiverse of offensive schemes this morning. It was just driving me a little crazy. But what I noticed is you're seeing a more conservative approach than what you saw last year from the Cowboys. Yeah. And you can't do that anymore. It's not working for you. In fact, it's kind of doing the opposite. It's making the Cowboys offense regress a little bit in the ways that they need to be progressing. And how is that? One, red zone. That's why we're having this red zone conversation. I'm sick of having this red zone conversation. I'm sick and tired of talking about it. Two,
when they do get to the red zone,
CeeDee Lamb
for another day.
Well, right. And there you go.
CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb.
Yes.
Where's CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah.
Where's the usage of CeeDee Lamb, your star wide receiver, who you need to be productive this year? Need not forget, it's a contract year for CeeDee Lamb. He needs to have a good year, no matter what's going on. That's going to help him later on when he's trying to get money in the bank. There's a lot of things that, look, you just can't play too conservative anymore, and I hate using that because it works when you need it to work, right? Aisha, to your point, when you need a conservative play calling for certain situations, sure, but I need a little more. You need a little more umph.
I don't know, but I don't know how much more you're going to get. They took some of the deep shots. They connected on the one to Turpin. I don't know that 26 yards really counts for that. But what did Mike say on Monday? We've mentioned it twice already this week. Playing to the strength of this team, which is the defense.
But
That means you got to score points, though.
You have
That
to.
means you got to score points, though. So to me, it's like,
True.
you got to take those shots, and that's why I asked him a couple weeks ago. Within the West Coast, man, like, it's methodical. It matriculates downfield, but you take shots, you set up shots.
There you go.
And you also scheme guys open. And I'm trying to be very fair about, the play calling, just because this is a totally new offense.
Yeah.
We are in week 5. And I don't know, my guy Foots the King mentioned, and I thought it was a great point, how many times this last couple of years were you in week 5 and you were looking at the Cowboys to be better? They peaked a lot very early in the Kelling years. They were like, oh, they're so explosive. Then in the middle of the season, teams are kind of figuring out what to do with them, and you're seeing the backlash. So I am not opposed to them having to pivot and figure out what's going on. But coaches, and again, like this is we have to do this in our profession as well. You got to be able to say, man, I need to evolve here. Maybe I got to shake something up here. Maybe I got to get better. No one is without improvement. And right now, this scheme is really putting a chokehold on everything that you want to do. And again, I don't know if it's a QB, OC communication thing, but not attacking in the middle of the field and not having explosive plays, it's going to pigeonhole you all year. Because if I'm a defense, I'm sitting on everything, homie. I'm like, all right, cool. Y'all want to do this little horizontal stuff? Fine, go ahead and do it. We're going to come up and tackle. But other than that, that's why they have trouble in the red zone, because that's why it's close, it's tight.
Where it scares me the most is your fourth down situations. That's where it freaks me out a little bit more, is I haven't seen enough of it yet to say, and this could be a conversation we talk about like week 10, maybe in 5 weeks or so. How is Mike McCarthy going to handle those fourth down situations? Because those can be game changers. One play or one lack of a play can be a game changer for the entire game. Is he going to say, all right, let's go for it? Or is he going to say, no, let's not go for it, and then later on say, I wish I would have done that?
He's been very aggressive his first 3 years,
But less as a play caller.
As a play caller.
But less
That's
now.
what makes me nervous.
I think it's an early sample size.
It is early.
It's an early sample size.
It's too early. That's why I said in week 10. We can come back and we can reconvene this discussion. Just in the meantime, that's something I want to keep my eye on.
I just would have loved to have a fourth down in that game Sunday in the second half that mattered.
Christy, that's what I'm saying. When you go back and you say, I wish that would have happened, that's what I'm talking about.
Exactly right. And then the other ones were blowout wins that were one-sided thanks to your defense and special teams and really good complementary football. And so it wasn't an issue in those games.
Well, let's talk about the defense and the special teams in our next segment. Let's get into those discussions, and we have some questions on Twitter, I believe. We'll read those and see if we can get to them as well. Stick with us. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, and we'll be right back.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Girls Talk Boys Talk presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner for the Dallas Cowboys. We're having some good discussion about what to give you guys in this segment, so sorry for being late. But first, the Dallas Cowboys Game Time, powered by Lenovo, the official gaming platform and community of the Dallas Cowboys. Sign up to compete in Madden 24 for a chance to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the 2023 Dallas Cowboys home game. Qualifiers begin on October 6th and run through the 13th. Learn more and register at dallascowboys.com. Okay. Sorry, we were in some really deep discussion and Jazzy was getting very impatient with
That
us.
song was playing.
It's a great song. Look, here's the thing. When you hear that song, you know we're coming.
That's crazy because I didn't even hear the song.
You didn't hear the song? I heard Jazzy being like, "Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?" I'm like, "Are you ready for it?" That's a Taylor Swift song. I got you.
Oh my gosh.
I got you.
Running out of quarters.
I got you. My mom said she's going to send you some.
Thank you.
All right. Nicole, you have some good little notes to share with us. Let's start there and we'll work our way back. We have a Twitter question we'll get to as well. But let's start with your little notes and nuggets that you wanted to share today.
Just saying that I know we want to talk about defense. So just talking about how special that defense has to play. Like Jonathan Hankins, big game for him last week. If you have a guy like Justin Herbert who plays so clean and just plays unbelievable, you've got to be able to pressure the quarterback, you know? So they got those guys, those front 7 guys have got to pressure the quarterback. They thrive off of that. So, yeah, I think that they've got to start. Yeah, they've got to do that. I think that's really going to be key for this defense.
Yeah, and one thing that he's been really good at, Herbert, is they blitzed him a ton. Week 3 at Minnesota, like over 80% of the snaps. He wants you to do it. And so I think it's going to be real interesting. I think they'll probably rely more on the stunts than some of the blitzes, but this is one of these young quarterbacks who can make you pay if you don't get there.
Yeah, and you mentioned a great point earlier by you when we were in the break. To add on to what you said, Nicole, is the fact that they lost their center. Their starting center, Corey Lindsley, early, and Will Clapp has been trying to find his way, to say the least, in that department. So there will be opportunity for interior pressure. The rest of their offensive line is pretty stout. I mean, they have Quentin Johnson, who's a good player. Rashawn Slater is a fantastic offensive tackle.
High draft pick.
Absolutely. Yeah. So those guys are gonna be sure up in coverage. I mean, well, in coverage in pass pro, but I think you can attack their interior, to your point, Nicole. So that will be something that we can look into as well.
Yeah. And we talk about it here all the time, how important that center position actually is within a game and for an offense, right? So, to be honest, it wasn't a position that I really had an appreciation for as much as I should have until I really talked to Tyler Biotish about how much goes into his job. And so anytime you have a center out, that automatically messes with the communication factor for your line, for your quarterback. It's just not good. And given they've had the bye week to kind of figure it out. They've had time to go through things. But it takes time to create a cohesive unit on an offensive line, as
we can tell.
We've known, as we've seen, as we've talked about. So, again, having a bit of a leaky center, it's something they can take advantage of and play up.
I'm so glad you said that, because I'm real curious to see especially if Micah Parsons is playing more linebacker instead of defensive end, because now we've got to, no. Here's the thing.
I'm out of excitement.
Yeah, because because what did we see Micah do a lot last year, and what was the plan for Leighton, and we saw it a bit through the first 5 games. It's called mugging. So when you have an inexperienced center and you take a linebacker or even walk a safety up, and they're like right over the center, right in the A gap, just on the one of the shoulders of the center there, and they're showing, are they going to rush or are they going to drop back? Are they going to rush or not? That's called mugging. And so coming in on that gap. And would that be? You think that'd be fun to see Micah do that on Monday night?
I mean, I tweeted the other day just because Dan Quinn mentioned the fact that Micah's going to be playing some more linebacker, and I was elated because I think that adds back like the questions, like having the quarterback question where he's coming from. I love that he's built up his tolerance, built up his body to be an edge, but where I thought he was the most of a problem was when he was at linebacker. And he was rushing from all different places because that just makes a quarterback have to think about what's going on. And to your point, it stresses out a center incredibly bad having someone.
He called himself what? Edge rushing linebacker? Is that what he called
whatever
himself
he
earlier?
is, whatever he
It
is.
was right before the season.
Yeah.
When everybody asked, what's your position? He said, I'm an edge rushing linebacker.
You see it on depth charts now in college and certainly in the NFL. So instead of DE or LB, a lot of times it'll just say edge, because that's basically I won't say new, but it's being acknowledged at least officially.
I just
edge
think it's
rusher.
funny because he didn't have an answer, and this was weeks ago. I mean, this was over the summer. An edge rushing linebacker, and then we asked Dan Quinn, is that what he is? He's
a defensive end. Yeah.
He's a defensive end. That's what Micah said.
Yeah.
Let's get into how things kind of shift around. If Micah's going more linebacker, edge, whatever you want to call it, how do things shift around for kind of your defensive ends at that point? Do you get more of a Sam Williams involvement?
More,
how do
more
you see
Sam,
that playing
more
out?
Dante Fowler, and that's the thing. You know, they can bring them in waves. Chauncey Golston has been playing more inside this year, but you can have him concentrate more at end. So but I think Sam Williams would certainly benefit from that, but Fowler as well.
I'm gonna be frank.
Uh-oh.
Whoever can contain the edge can play edge.
That's the thing, because you've got to be able. There have been some times where one of the aforementioned players has not set the edge, and given up some big plays around the end.
Yeah, so,
and you have to be disciplined. You have to play that.
Yeah.
And so if this young player in particular wants to get more chances to rush the passer, make sure you play the run better.
Real quick, before I want to get to this Twitter question before we have to wrap things up, and we can obviously continue this discussion tomorrow, ladies. But Brandon on Twitter, shout out to Brandon, asked, who would you prefer to see match up against Keenan Allen, Deron Bland, who is anything but bland, or Stephon Gilmore?
There we go. Get ready, Jazz. Here it comes.
I can't pick it up with my nails. I got it.
There you go.
Sorry, I'm a little late.
What do you think?
All right.
Aisha, you going?
Who are you taking?
Y'all answer first.
I think it's a great question, Brandon. I think the Cowboys will still have their cornerbacks play sides. You know, I don't know that you're going to travel with anyone. And Allen is a very versatile weapon in there, and they're undisputed number one now, especially without Mike Williams. So. Honestly, I need to watch a little more Keenan Allen and see the way that Kellen Moore is utilizing him. So I need to go back and watch the first couple weeks when they had Williams, and because I've watched the last 2 games.
Quite honestly, he's everywhere. They move him, and he's everywhere. He's a hard guy.
So when he's inside, then that would be Jordan Lewis,
which is a mismatch. I know Jordan is tough.
That's a size mismatch.
Him is not afraid to get in there and tackle and to play hard. But they move him around to find favorable matchups, because he also too is a very smart player. You got to be a smart player to be able to move across the line of scrimmage. So I agree with Christy. Yeah. I don't foresee them traveling him, because it would just complicate things so much to try to do that. However, if I had to choose who I wanted defending
you have to
him,
choose. You have to choose right now. Pick one now,
Lord
right
have
at this
mercy.
moment.
I think I would just go Deron Bland at this point. I would go Deron Bland there, but either or, it doesn't really matter. He's gonna get his place
For sure.
Nicole, what about you?
That's what I was gonna say. I don't think last week a lot of people targeted Deron Bland a lot just because they know how good he is at making those good reads and cutting inside. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Deron Bland just because I know that teams are kind of trying to shy away from that. They're trying to target Stephon Gilmore a little bit more and test him one-on-one.
They did pick on him at the beginning of the game.
Him a lot.
Yeah, it's fair.
I'm going to go Stephon Gilmore. I'm just playing devil's advocate here because usually I'd go Deron Bland, which y'all know why. I don't
They
have to
both
say
probably going to guard him at some point.
No, but here's the thing.
Real.
I'm going to go Stephon Gilmore too because his ability to diagnose plays is phenomenal. And when you go back and you watch some of his film, his ability to adjust accordingly, and he almost reads the route before the receivers do sometimes, it's kind of scary. I think that'll play to his advantage in this game, and especially when you're dealing with someone like Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
You need all the help you can
Yeah, that was a
get.
great question. Thank you,
So,
Brandon.
yeah, thank you, Brandon. Ladies, we're officially out of time for the day, but we'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place, 4 o'clock, DallasCowboys.com. That's 4 o'clock Central Time, that is. Ladies, anything else you want to add before we wrap things up today?
I meant what I said. That's all I got to say. I meant what I said about whoever is, if they moving Micah to linebacker, whoever's over there, I don't want to see it again. I can't take it no more. Teams beat you going at the opposite edge of DeMarcus Lawrence last year, like they just did.
All right, well, there you go.
Have mercy. Sorry.
Y'all, we got to log out before she's getting on it today. All right.
It's all love.
It's all love. We love that. Love that. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today in this conversation. If you watched, we appreciate you. Yes, that means you, Julian, who is watching. That is my nephew who is dying for a little shout out the last 2 days. So, Julian, I love you very much, and you're the cutest. All right. Ladies, I won't be here tomorrow. Nicole's going to hold down the fort, and she's going to be sitting right here in this beautiful host seat. So you all give her all the love, shower her with all the love, and this will be her seat now. So starting tomorrow, Nicole, I officially hand the torch off to you to sit in this lovely seat.
Thanks,
and I'm so
girl.
excited.
Bring your quarters.
Appreciate it. I'll be broke.
Look,
Lord.
we all have to take out a loan, okay?
Okay, no worries. I'll bring some.
All right. Well, ladies, thank you so much. Thank you all for watching. We'll be back here tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. This has been Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw. We'll see you tomorrow.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!